How will the Jews during the Great Tribulation who refused to get the mark of the beast survive? It's a really good question. So in Zechariah chapter 13, verse 8, it says, "It shall come to pass in all the land, says the Lord, that 2/3 in it shall be cut off and die, but 1/3 shall be left in it. I will bring the 1/3 through the fire and refine them as silver is refined." And it goes on. But what's important, what this is saying is that during the Great Tribulation, a total of 1/3 of the Jewish people are going to be eliminated. And so if you imagine the Holocaust, it is going to be twice as bad as that during this time period, which is so terrible to even consider. But in Revelation chapter 16, what you find is that during the Great Tribulation, you get into the bowl judgments. And so in Revelation 16, what you see in verse 4 and verse 3 and 4, you see that the water becomes blood. So you have the salt water becomes blood, you have the spring water becomes blood. It paints this very graphic picture that is, trying to, that you and I are trying to wrap our minds around, which is really, really descriptive. And it's not something that we enjoy really diving into. But the question is, how are these Jewish people going to survive if they refuse the mark of the beast? They cannot buy or sell because they refused. And since they refuse, not only can they not buy or sell, but also the water, the natural resources, are all blood during this time. So how are these people going to survive? Well, if we go to Isaiah chapter 41, verse 17, it says, "The poor and needy seek water, but there is none. Their tongues fail for thirst. I, the Lord, will hear them. I, the God of Israel, will not forsake them. I will open rivers in desolate heights and fountains in the midst of the valleys. I will make the wilderness a pool of water and the dry land springs of water. I will plant in the wilderness the cedar and the acacia tree, the myrtle and the oil tree. I will set in the desert the cypress tree and the pine and the box tree together, that they may see and know and consider and understand together that the hand of the Lord has done this, and the Holy One of Israel has created it." And so you see God providing for these people in the book of Isaiah, which is really interesting, but it doesn't stop there. If you go to Isaiah 65 in verse 8, it says, "Thus says the Lord, as the new wine is found in the cluster, and one says, 'Do not destroy it, for a blessing is in it,' so will I do for my servant's sake, that I may not destroy them all. I will bring forth descendants from Jacob and from Judah, an heir of my mountains. My elect shall inherit it, and my servants shall dwell there. Sharon shall be a fold of flocks, in the valley of Achor a place for herds to lie down, for my people who have sought me. But you are those who forsake the Lord, who forget my holy mountain, who prepare a table for Gad, and who furnish a drink offering to many. Therefore I will number you for the sword, and you shall all bow down to the slaughter, because when I called, you did not answer. When I spoke, you did not hear, but did evil before my eyes, and chose that in which I do not delight. Therefore, thus says the Lord God, behold, my servants shall eat, but you shall be hungry. Behold, my servants shall drink, but you shall be thirsty. Behold, my servants shall rejoice, but you shall be ashamed. Behold, my servants shall sing for joy of heart, but you shall cry for sorrow of heart, and wail for grief of spirit." So what it seems to be alluding to here in Isaiah 65 is you see in verse 8 through 16, the first couple verses in verse 8 through 16, you see God providing for the believing Jews that are in the wilderness. He's providing for the believing Jews. But then at the last couple of verses in verse 13 and whatnot, you see it's a contrast to the unbelieving. Because during the Great Tribulation, verse 12 and 13 show that he will not provide for the unbelieving remnant. So there's going to be Jewish people who all flee, and he's going to provide for those who are believing, and he's not going to provide for those who are unbelieving, just because of everything that they've seen up until this point and all the light that they've been given. That it's unbelievable to think that it's even an option for there to be an unbelieving remnant at this point. But I think it's fascinating because these Jewish people have fled into the wilderness at this point, and that's really interesting because if you go to Revelation chapter 12, in Revelation chapter 12, verse 6, it says, then the woman fled into the wilderness. Now this woman, if you read Revelation chapter 12, this woman is an allusion to Israel. So it's verse 6, Revelation 12 verse 6 is telling you about Israel. Israel is going to flee into the wilderness. And it says, then the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by God. So God has a specific place in mind. It's a very, very specific place somewhere in the wilderness that God has in mind to provide for these people and to protect them and care for them. And so it's really fun diving into that, but you have the word wilderness there. But it's interesting because if you couple that in Matthew chapter 24, when Jesus is talking to a couple of his apostles, he says, hey, therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place, let him who reads understand, let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Okay, so you have two locations that these Jewish people are going to go to. They're going to go to something that has someplace that is it has mountains, and someplace that has a wilderness. So mountains and wilderness. And so if you pull on that thread, what you'll find is that they are going to go to a place called Basra. Now, where is Basra? Well, Basra is in Edom, and Basra and Edom are both located east of Israel. So they are going to flee to Jordan. That's what you and I would refer to it today. That's the name that we would give it. They are going to run and go into Jordan. And so it's really cool when you pull on that again, because Basra means sheepfold. And so when you picture Israel as being a whole bunch of like little sheep running around, then you start to see where they're going towards is they're going towards safety. And they're going to a place called Basra, which is a sheepfold. And so they're all running into a place where they are going to be protected by the Good Shepherd. And that is all about where the actual, the revelation, the unveiling of Jesus Christ actually takes place, which is going to take place in Basra, which is you are given more details on that in Isaiah 63. It's just fascinating. But all of these things we talk about in our YouTube and TikTok Bible study, I'll post that right here if you're interested in it. But this is just so good to kind of try to understand. Like we don't know. I don't know everything. I'm never going to know everything. I want you guys to understand that I tell you guys, or at least the people in the Bible study, I'm like, I can't wait to get to heaven to find out how wrong I've been. And so, like, I'm not saying everything I'm saying is right. I get a lot of pushback on some of these videos I put out, and that's okay. Like, it's just my opinion. I'm just letting you know to test all things and hold fast to that which is good. But enjoy the ride and love one another when you do it, because that's the whole thing that we are supposed to do. We are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And so it's really important to remember those things, because when we remember those things, then people are going to see the light within us and they are going to glorify God. And, as Matthew 5 talks about, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Don't forget, keep the main thing, and that is always the gospel. Tell people about Jesus while you can, because I believe time is short. Hope this helps.